Okay, good evening and welcome to chapter 22 of The Living Marriage. We're here in the middle of really lesson 7. He's calling it part 2. Um, this chapter is titled Three Types of Love. Last chapter we talked about what is love. Now we're going to define three different types of love. And in order to do this, he quotes the Rambam in Pirkei Avos, who says this is where he's getting this whole chapter from. This is the source of the entire chapter. Remember that because it's all coming from this Rambam. Now, the Rambam is not a Gemara, but the Rambam is a Rambam. He's one of the most famous Rishonim, if not the most famous Rishon. He says the one type of love is avas toelis, where you love someone because you gain through the partnership, right? Two partners in a business, they do a deal together, or they do a deal together, or they have a partnership. They open up a law firm together to be profitable together, to earn money together. Then each one helps the other one out earn money. Or avas melech machaneu, uh, or a melech loves his people that protect him, the soldiers that service him, right? Because the soldiers help his kingdom and things like that, and they like it because they're paid or they're treated with respect by the king. So that's it's a relationship which is benefits both people. So you love each other for that relationship. Do I really love my partner? Is he someone I would have coffee with? Not necessarily. If we weren't in business together, no, we do business together. So it's something external, as the author is going to point out. Then there's something called avas menucha, loving rest. Who doesn't love to rest? Who shtei minim, the Rambam says, two types: oev hana, oev bitachon. Right? So you like pleasure. Now he says it's hard to understand pleasure. Things we associate with pleasure are not normally resting, right? When you're together with your wife, are you really resting? Are you really sleeping? They say you sleep together, but really it's a lot of work actually. You know, that's why a lot of men don't want to do it because it's a lot of work. They're tired. They'd rather go to sleep. But always be tachon and serenity or security. You feel serene. Your mind is serene. Serenity now, as as George's father would say on Seinfeld. Serenity now. It's a really big thing. That peace of mind is one of the hardest things to get in the world. And obviously, happiness is a nicer thing. But happiness is built on serenity. If you don't have serenity, you'll never be happy. The first step to Olam Haba is to have serenity, to have peace of mind. And that's a great thing. And that is rest. It enables you to rest if you have serenity. The third type of love, he says those two are not the greatest type of love. Ohev Hamale, loving of a virtue. That's what the Rambam says is the third type of love. Hu sheyeh taiva shneim l'davar echad. Hu atov, yirtza kolecha lehazar bechavero v'aki atov hu yeh l'shneim yachad. You love a virtue. Now, I'm just going to translate the simple explanation that I would translate this Rambam without the author telling me, but the Rambam or translating the Rambam for me. You love a virtue, and he says an example. The example he gives of Avas Hamala is the relationship between a Rebbe and his student. Now, this is the highest form of love. The simple reading of the Rambam is that you love the virtue, meaning, and he even proves this himself, the author. He brings Gemaras where the Gemara in Tainus says that a rabbi said, right, I learned a lot from my own rabbis. I learned more from my chaver and my chavrusas, and I learned the most from my talmidim. And he brings the Maharal who explains that the reason that you learn the most from a Talmud is because a gadol who knows how to learn very well, everything's very clear to him, right? You listen to my shiurim, my shiurim, everything's very clear to me, right? I don't have any people asking me questions. When people ask you questions, it forces you to explain yourself even better. So it produces the highest form of Torah learning, the highest form of clarity in Torah learning. That's Avas Hamala, where you're producing a virtue, which is a mitzvah, or understanding of Torah, which is, of supreme importance. The understanding of Torah, right? That's the Avas Hamala. The relationship between a Talmud and a Rav, right? It's not bad because they love each other as people and they want to spend time together, even if there was no Torah involved. They love each other because together, through their learning Torah, through their relationship, and when they're not learning Torah, they're instructing. I'll talk more about this relationship with my Rebbe, where I would oftentimes want to be around my Rebbe, not just to learn actual Torah from him, but to be mashamish him. Like the Gemara says, Gadol Shimusha Mulimudo, to be around, to assist him, and just be around him so I can learn, how to act in this world. How does a Gadol act in this world, with common people? How does he act? What things to say, what things to do, how do you act normal, right? Because You think of Rabbanim, you think of big people, but you usually don't see them around their families. How do they act around their families? How do they act around the average people? The Balabatim, when they're going to collect money, how do they act? And you want to learn from that. And I spent a couple of years trying to follow around my rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov Friedman, my Rebbe, to learn how to act with common people, and I didn't see him with his family so much, but I was doing the way he acted with common people, with his wife and his kids also. And to learn from that, I wanted to learn the right way to act with people, and that's Shimusho. So, Avas Harav Talmud, the love for a Rebbe and the Talmud, it's either to, Talmud to ask questions to the Rebbe, to produce a high level of Torah, or, it's not really a love. Like, I don't think I ever, I loved my Rebbe. I loved being around my Rebbe and learning from him. That's what I loved. I didn't love the Rebbe. I don't think that's a proper relationship between a Rav and a Talmud. The Rav and a Talmud, if you look in the Torah and the Gemara, it talks about, standing up for a Rebbe Muvak, about giving Mora and Kibud. It never says Ava. The only time it says Ava is Avas Hashem and Afla Reach HaMocha and Avas Ager. Those are the only time it doesn't say learn from your children in the Torah anywhere. So I don't think the relationship, let's leave the Rambam as it is. That's the highest form of love. I don't necessarily agree with the Rambam. There's any love between a Rav and a Talmud, and I'll tell you why I feel that way soon. I do feel that so the relationship of Rav and a Talmud is you're loving the Torah you're producing, or what you're learning from the Rav, so you love that. That's something also external. What it's a Torah. It's not even part of you. You're creating greater Torah in the world. You're creating. You know how to act better. So, there's different stages in your life. I'll talk about this in a second. But so those are the three types of love. Now the author says there's ascending orders. Now the Ram doesn't say. The Ram says the best one is Avas Hamala, where you love the virtue, you love the Torah that you're producing between them. He says that the last love of virtue is that when the Tov is accomplished, when the Talmud challenges the Rebbe and he asks a good question, he gets a good answer. So then, they'll be together. They'll spend more time together. I don't know, they'll spend more time together. They'll feel a kinship, a relationship. So the author places these three loves in order. Now, the order the Rambam has, the first one, he has Avatoelis, a business partnership. Strategic partnership, you both earn more money through a business deal together. All right, that's the lowest level. But he doesn't put that as the lowest level. The author puts the lowest level. He says the lowest level is Avas HaMenucha, is loving pleasure. So that's what he opens off with. Loving pleasure. When you love pleasure, he brings a famous metaphor, which I think I mentioned in the last chapter, the Bali Musar. I'll read it here. There's a famous metaphor from the Bali Musar that depicts a person who says he loves fish, and it's starting to ask him, if he really loved it, why did he trap it, kill it, cook it, and eat it? Is that the way you treat the one you love? The truth is, you don't love the fish, you really love your stomach. Sounds pretty bad. I've heard this metaphor many times. When you go to someone's Shabbos table, and you like the food too much, and say, you like your boich, you like your stomach. That's what they say. You like your stomach, and you're feeling like, oh man, I gotta avoid these temptations, this Oneg Shabbos, even on Shabbos, it's Avera, to enjoy this world. I love the fish. I love my stomach. I don't love the fish. I'd rather love the fish. I wish I could get married to the fish, but unfortunately, I'm harmful. I kill the fish so I could eat it. So I don't love fish. I love my stomach. That's worse. It would be better if I can get married to the fish, walk down the aisle with the fish. No. See, a lot of times these Bali Musars say these things. They're metaphors. And they say it with a certain intent. The intent of the Bali Musar is to say, stay away from the Tanugim of this world, the lights of this world. You love your stomach. But the reason they're quoted oftentimes, and the reason they're passed down generation to generation, is because there's a lot of truth. It's the opposite of what they thought, right? Loving your stomach is a great thing. It means stomach is part of yourself, your body, right? There's no one you should love more. As the author himself said in the last chapter, he says in a short paragraph, he says, people think that you're supposed to not like yourself. And that's the way of the Western world. The Christians teach us not to love yourself. Do for the other person. No. The first person you got to love, the most important person in the world to love is yourself. And it's very hard to love yourself. It is very hard to love yourself. But that's what the Bali Musar is saying. Right? You don't love the fish. You don't love the externality. You love yourself. When you love good food, when you love a good-looking woman, you love yourself, and that's the greatest thing in the world. I believe it's the greatest thing in the world. That's what the Bali Musar are telling you. Obviously the author understood it the way the Bali Musar understood it, and therefore he tries to say, even though you love your stomachs, there's still a certain love between you and your stomach, which is okay because because externally you love the fish. So because the fish you love a little bit. I mean, you kill it and you trap it and you cook it, but you still love it a little bit because it brings you enjoyment. He tries to sort of reconcile the problem. You love your stomach, which is terrible. So you do love the fish a little bit, but it's external. He says that's external. The second love, he says, love of benefit and similarity. He talks about, business partners or people that are similar, part of a similar sect in Judaism, part of, they come from the same country, the same place. There's a kinship, right? People that are similar to you or from your neighborhood or from your school when you grew up or, you knew them previously in your life. You have a certain kinship with them. People that are similar to you, right? If I walk around the street and I see someone in a white shirt and black pants and a black jacket, I mean, hey, he's one of me. I don't say that. I don't really wear a black jacket. I wear a blue jacket on Shabbos. But a lot of people in the community wear that. But, when I was more Haredi, so yeah, I would feel a kinship, Hasidim, Haredim, they're my type. They're my people, even if I didn't know the person, I just met the person, I feel a certain kinship. You do. But he said, again, that's based on being external factors. And that's avas toelis, he says. Ava, that you're getting something out of. You're getting something, you feel the kinship to that person. But that's dependent on the other person. So again, these two, the lowest level is love for pleasure, or manucha. How being together, how being together is manucha is a different discussion. I'll explore later on in the book why sleeping with someone is called sleeping and not, it's a lot of work actually. It's a lot easier just to go to sleep or have the woman do everything. So those are the two things that are based on external factors. But the real love that is the virtue, he says, that is, he compares to a car. That's the metaphor he gives. The engine of a car, right? The engine of a car by itself, if you took it out of the car, if it had emotions, the engine, it would feel that it's missing. It wants to be part of the car, right? So every person is part of Klal Yisrael. He equates to the Klal Yisrael. We feel that if we're not with the rest, unified with the rest of our Jews, our fellow Jews, right? So we're not in that car. We're not in the place we're supposed to be. So being in a state of completion, much like he associates the idea of marriage, and the real purpose of marriage is to unify the Zachar and Nekeva, because we're a complete person when we're together, and that's personified the most in the bedroom. So that's the whole purpose of marriage. That's the purpose of the love of virtue. The love of virtue is to unify. That's the purpose, is to unify. And when you love your child, you want to unify with them. When you love your Rebbe, you want to unify with them. When you love people in Klal Yisrael, you want to unify with them. You love your wife, you want to unify with them. So those are all examples of unification. Fits in very well with the rest of this book. The only problem is that the Rambam doesn't say this. He's putting words into the Rambam, right? What does the word mala mean? Mala means virtue, right? Avas mala, you love virtue. It doesn't say avas hayichud, right? The Rambam happens to say, right? The result will be, right, that they'll join together, they'll join forces for the common good, which is even more external, right? And he brings the examples, the author himself brings the examples of the Rab and the Talmud, because that's what the Rambam's example is. And he brings the Gemara and Tanis, right, where the Gemara says that, you learn the most from your Talmidim, they sharpen you. They're like small twigs that light a bigger fire. They light up, a great fire. The Rav is a big log. We need the small logs to start the fire. So therefore, it sharpens the Rav. It makes him clarify the Torah. What do you end up with? You end up with a greater knowledge of Torah, which is virtuous, and it's great to know the Torah. However, it's something just like the other two things, you want to call them external. Now, I would call loving pleasure not external. That's what we talked about with your stomach. You love your stomach. Your stomach is part of your body. That's the one that's not external. The one that's external, if you love something to make money, so the money is the reason that's binding you together, or you love a friend, right? Someone similar to you. I would include even friends, right? Not someone you just made friends with somebody, even if he's a different background, you became friendly with the person. Your personalities go well together. Um, in that case, I would say that you love, the state of spending time with each other, right? But only when it's good for both of you, right? So it's not a complete. That's like I would say love of you love the other person. You love spending time with that person, but your body doesn't physically benefit from it. I mean, you might benefit from the conversation you have with them, but it's not a physical. The most direct benefit is a physical benefit, and that's sleeping and eating and being together with your wife. So those are the best, closest to your body. Then you have friends, you have a close friend, you spend time together, you have nice conversation, so you can enjoy your time together. And I would say the smallest is when you're coming together for a virtuous thing, for a noble deed. You have a chesed campaign or ura auction, and you have a big fundraiser for the yeshiva. It's a good thing to raise money for yeshivas. It's a good thing to raise money for chesed organizations to help out in hospitals. These are great things, but there's no connection, right? It's a total external. It's a love of a virtue because at the end of the day, right? Everyone thinks that tzaddik and the point of life is to be a tzaddik, but the point of life is not. It's to make the right decision. That's really what life boils down to. People think the tzaddik or doing virtuous things or being known as someone who's a virtuous person is the goal of life. I don't believe that to be true. I believe the goal of life is to care about yourself and make decisions about yourself, which is a lot more primal to yourself. And it's a lot more harder, much harder to be than a tzaddik. It's much harder to constantly make decisions, 20,000 decisions a day, and make the right decisions. And if you regret the decision you made, try to fix it, do tshuva, that's what real tshuva is, and stay on that path for a long time, then be a tzaddik, be a virtuous person, and not make decisions, and just go with whatever your wife gives you, whatever people tell you to do, or Das Torah tells you to do, and not make your own decisions. And the hardest thing, and one of the hardest things in life, is to be making your own decisions. And people oftentimes give that up. Even the biggest tzaddikim give that up. So to be a virtuous person and to be known as a virtuous person is a nice thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with a tzaddik. Tzaddikim help a lot of people. They counsel a lot of people. They teach Torah to a lot of people, which are all good things. But virtue is something which is not necessarily good, right? Not necessarily good itself, virtue. It's something, there's times in life, you want to be known as a virtuous person, do the right thing. And certain times, with crooked people and with tough people like here in Israel, you got to be tough sometimes. You can't always be such a nice guy. It's nice to be nice when other people are nice. When other people are rude and they're trying to take advantage of you, you got to fight back. You got to take advantage. That's part of being a complete person and making the right decisions. So, and that's really, completion. If you ask even the biggest tzaddikim, they'll tell you shleimus is the most. Being a complete person is someone who can make the right decision in any scenario in life. So, out of all the things that the Rambam, the types of love that he talks about, I would say the Rambam's type of love is the lowest type of love because it's the least to do with you, right? You're loving making the Torah greater. But the Torah is a nice thing, but it's outside of you. If you're loving, a friend or a business partnership, so you like spending time together because you're making money together or you're having a enjoyable conversation together, something profitable that you can directly benefit from. Money is more directly benefit than something virtuous, right? We don't automatically assume that the person who learns more Torah gets more schar in Olam Haba. It's not the way it works, It's just not fair otherwise. Think about, a person who's born into, African American community, I'll never, maybe he's never going to meet a Jew in his life, or someone born in Australia, or not Australia, someone born in Africa, or someone born in New Zealand, the people might not even meet a Jew in their life, and what? They're on a lower level because I was born into a Haredi family. They only sent me to yeshivas, and all I was told to learn. And every minute of my life I'm learning, even after I got married. And I don't help my wife out at all. And I just learn and learn and learn and learn because every word of Torah is a mitzvah. The Gra says. So I learn the most words of Torah, so I get the most schar in Olam Haba. It just doesn't work like that. It's not the way it works. Talmud Torah keneged kulam, right? Talmud Torah opposes. Neged means oppose. Ezer kenegdo, right? If you're zocha, your wife helps you. If not, if she opposes you, Talmud Torah, learning Torah without restraint, right? Kenegdo opposes doing all the mitzvahs. The point of the Torah is to do the mitzvahs. You learn the Torah so you can do the mitzvahs. The point is the mitzvahs. That's the end goal, is the mitzvahs. Torah maybe they might say. If you're not involved in Torah, you're never going to be able to have the motivation to do the maisim, the mitzvos. But the mitzvos is the main part. That's the 613 mitzvos. That's the main part of the Torah. The Torah is to learn about the Torah knowledge and also to be involved in Torah, so it brings you to the mitzvos. But if you're not going to do the mitzvahs, you can ignore the mitzvahs. Just learn Torah your entire life. You don't think for a second that you get more olam haba than someone who's born in Kansas and never meets a Jew in his life. It doesn't work like that, you know. And the person who's born a non-Jew and he never meets a Jew in his life could very well be, you know, more virtuous than the biggest tzaddik, you know. Call me crazy, but I think, you know, when I think of great, you know, non-Jewish people, I think of someone like Abraham Lincoln. You know, Abraham Lincoln, you know, not just the fact that he, you know, did incredible things as president and he freed the slaves, but if you read the Wikipedia biography, and you know, Wikipedia, a lot of people write it, but you know, generally most of the stuff is pretty accurate. You know, he used to read the Bible every day. He wasn't even Jewish. He used to read the Bible. The last thing he said before he was assassinated, he said told his wife he wants to go to the land of Israel. You know, he was someone who valued his life and made tough decisions, and someone who really succeeded in life. And you know, out of all the people that I've read about Wikipedia biographies, in their personal life, and you know, a little bit of their history, a little bit of their success of their career, I would say Abraham Lincoln is up there. You know, even someone like Napoleon or something like that. You know, you think of these people as wicked people, but they're accomplished people that accomplish a lot in life. You know, there's a reason they became famous, and it's very possible that someone like Napoleon, someone like um, like Abraham Lincoln, you know, there's a bunch of virtuous people who arguably have a greater place in Olam Haba than even a gadol like Rav Chaim Kanievsky. Chas v'shalom to say such a thing. Chaim Kanievsky was born into Torah. I mean, it's possible he's also has a great place in Olam Haba. I'm not one who's an expert in knowing exactly where a person is in Olam Haba, but according to my understanding of life, because I've traversed a little bit of life, and I'm someone who excelled in making decisions. Um, that is my greatest virtue, is making decisions. And I can tell you from what I know now in life is that that is the goal in life. That is the key in life. And because I know, and it makes sense, right? Because otherwise, it's not fair life. How could it be fair that Abraham Lincoln would never became Jewish, and never learned the word of Torah? You know, the Gemara he never learned. He learned the Bible. So, you know, how does he get less here? How is he going? It's not fair. He should, if he was born to a Haredi family, he would be the biggest masmid. The point is that it goes based on your decision making. Bechira chavshus. Right? That's what it goes based on. So, you know, you can be the greatest tzaddik, but you'll not be as great as someone who excelled in decision making more than you and made the correct choices in life. Everyone knows what the right thing to do. That's why we have a conscience, which sounds like consciousness. Right? Conscious is your conscious. Right? If you're not using your conscience and feeling guilty of making the wrong decisions, then you're not conscious. You're dead. So simple as that. So therefore, I would say, you know, doing things virtuously, even though, you know, learning and, you know, chesed are nice things and they're virtuous things, but those things are the most external to yourself because it's not directly related to yourself. Things that are most directly or primal to closer to yourself, your body is the closest thing to yourself. So things that, you know, keep, you know, your mind at ease or your body at ease and enjoyable, those are the highest types of love. The second level, I would say, is something, you know, a friendship with a friend. You can enjoy spending time with them. And the last level of love is, you know, like he says, the Rav and a Talmud relationship. I was going to mention, you know, my relationship with Yaakov Friedman. I had a pretty good relationship for, you know, I joined his yeshiva when I was 21 or 22. He was really nice to me for many years. He accepted me as yeshiva. I didn't have any money to pay. I'm sure there's a lot of people in that situation also. You know, my parents weren't so happy that I was there, but, you know, so he you know, basically gave me room and board for free. He helped me a lot, answering all my shilas, you know, and learning and halacha and giving me hadracha. And for years after I left the yeshiva and I was in America and I wasn't married, I was asking him questions. I had sessions for an hour. He gave me hours, you know, an hour a week, let's say, on the phone where I would call him and I had a list of questions I would ask him. And when he used to come into America to fundraise, you know, twice or three times a year, I would try as much as I could to be around him. I would go to people's houses on Shabbos where he was eating and try to learn from how the way he acted among common people. And I felt like I learned a lot and I grew a lot. And he was entertaining a little bit. I thought he was entertaining a little bit. I guess people around me didn't think, when I told the stories to them, didn't think it was that entertaining. But but I was really entranced by my Rebbe, Rabbi Yaakov Friedman. After many years, I went back to Israel without being married, and I went back to his yeshiva because I still maintained the close relationship throughout the years with him. Unfortunately, when I came back to the yeshiva now was in Beitar, I didn't enjoy such a close relationship with him. I mean, partly it was my fault. I wasn't as much into learning back in the 10 years prior to that when I was much closer to him. So I was much more of a masmid, and I was learning every second. And when I returned to Beitar, I wasn't in the same religious state, so I wasn't learning as much as then. But I needed a place to go. And again, he was very nice to me and very generous to me to open his yeshiva to me, to let me come for free, room and board for free, even though I wasn't one of the best talmidim at that point. And I'm forever indebted to that. And I hope one day I'll have enough money to be able to go back and pay him for those 5 or 6 years that I stayed at his yeshiva for free. And he personally never said anything about it, never even had contacted my parents, because he knew my parents probably wouldn't want to pay. He had the respect for my parents also, and he gave time to my parents, and he really took care of me and treated me well. And I looked up to him for many years. Today, I left his yeshiva right after I got married. I was there for a month after I got married, then I left. I was speaking to him a little bit on the phone as a posek, but eventually, I lost touch with him. I don't live explicitly really close to him. I live about an hour drive away from him, so I'm not really that close to him. I haven't even seen him a couple of years. But the relationship already soured a little bit when I came back to Beitar in Israel, and I wasn't as serious. And I noticed that he was keeping a little bit of a distance from me at that point. I think it was just because, because we had a really great relationship. And I think, he wants to have the great relationship with the people that are, the most dedicated to the learning and most dedicated to avodas Hashem at that point. And I wasn't off the derech, but I'm saying I wasn't as, the biggest masmid in the world, and I wasn't, coming to all the shiurim and asking questions. So he felt it was probably better to give his time and attention to other students who were like me, 10, 15 years before that. So who was very serious and wanted to grow. And maybe he felt he gave everything he could give to me, but the relationship took a little bit, it cooled down a little bit there, and to the point that I'm not really interested in going and seeing him. I mean, if I saw him, I would give him, I would be nice and warm to him, and I hope he would be nice and warm to me. We don't have a bad relationship. It's just, the relationship sort of just ended. It soured, it ended. But the fact that it ended so quickly and soured just showed to me that the type of relationship I have with my Rebbe, and I still consider it my Rebbe, because most of the things I learned from him, maybe he's even my Rebbe Mufak, where I have to treat him with Mora and Kibbut, I would say is because the relationship between a Rebbe and a Talmud, even though we were very close, I mean, I was really close. Like, his author talks about at the end, he says in a footnote, he says, our generation is fortunate to have many Talmud Torah teachers who know how to embrace a proper Rav-Talmud relationship. Fortunate are the students who have experienced such a relationship. Unfortunately, there are still teachers who have become like professors, quote unquote, who merely give over facts, aren't interested in hearing their students' questions, and have no real connection with them. Accepting the role of a Torah leader is a tremendous responsibility, and it is essential that one who is blessed to have such an opportunity appreciates what his position entails. Yes, the quintessential Rabbi Yaakov Friedman was a great Rabbi. I'm the professor. That's what I do. I'm the Rebbe who just posts videos on YouTube and doesn't want people, even my relatives ask me, they treat me as a rabbi. They say, what's the halacha of this? What's the right hashkafa on this? I say, listen, I'm not answering a question. I'm not a rabbi. I don't want the relationship because it's a burden ultimately. I would never want a Rebbe Talmud relationship, my own personal. I don't want people to ask questions. So that idea is a good thing. They're going to they can post questions in the comments. I'd love to answer the question if they had a question on one of the shiurim I gave. But that aspect I like, and that's really the only aspect of a Rebbe Talmud relationship, to increase the Torah, to sharpen the Torah of both the student and the Rebbe. But the relationship, the emotional relationship, I don't think there is an emotional relationship than a student and a Rebbe. The thing that binds them is learning Torah greater, understanding Torah greater, maybe understanding Hashkafa greater, the Hashkavas Torah greater, and that's really what it's all based on, that knowledge, that virtue. And that doesn't bind people together. It doesn't bind people as much as we think it binds people together. And I've heard so many times that the closest relationship we have is a chavrusa. Where is that from? No, chavrusa you can get an art scroll. I mean, you can love your art scroll. You can kiss your art scroll. I mean, I actually like how the art scrolls look, but the Daf Yomi editions. But listen, at the end of the day, the Rebbe Talmud relationship is a relationship built around virtue, and virtue is something which is good. but it's not as primal to a person as bodily needs or enjoyable conversation. So therefore, I don't think it's a great relationship of love, and I think it's the lowest level of love, and that's why the relationship I have with my Rebbe um, is pretty much non-existent nowadays. Even though I thought I had a really strong emotional bond to him. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.